Where grain once grew high as a man's shoulder, dazed farmers walked out over their beaten, blown-out fields. It had taken 1,000 years to build an inch of topsoil on the southern plains. It took only minutes for one good blow to sweep it all away.
Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. I'm going to title this video something probably pretty dramatic because I think it needs our attention. I don't often sound the alarm on things, but there's something about this which is concerning to me. So I've talked about how in the past, government, powers that be, elites, corporations, it's hard to delineate where any of those boundaries are between those things. How it's in their best interest, and arguably the best interest of people as a whole, for them to mitigate panic and disaster by being overly optimistic in their projections. No matter which major disaster you're putting your attention on as being the one most probable to happen, whether it's economic collapse, military standoffs, an asteroid hitting the Earth, whatever the case might be, the government is going to downplay the reality of the situation so people don't start panicking and there's not rioting in the streets. They got to maintain social order somehow. So I came across an article on the Weather Network a few days ago. I didn't realize how much circulation this story was getting. But the headline of the article is that the Earth will enter an abnormally warm period from 2018 to 2022. Now, because I've been paying a bit more attention to this abrupt climate change stuff, and it's taken me years, and I'm talking over a decade, to really accept. I don't even want to say necessarily accept, because I'm not 100% accepting of anything, but I accept that this is a major possibility, and that this is something which could really be a huge disaster scenario, which we may not recover from. If what some climate scientists are projecting is true, you're going to see the movie The Road in real life. It's probably going to be one of the most long-winded and horrific disaster scenarios there is, because of all these self-reinforcing positive feedback loops, as they're called, so such that the Arctic ice melts, there's less white on the planet to reflect the sun's rays, thus the Earth gets hotter, etc., etc. It seems as though that the new headline is going to be temperatures are going to be anomalously, that's the word they use, anomalously warmer from the years 18 to 22, as if to say at that point it's just going to stop, or it's going to go, back to, I think they say back to 2018 levels, which, well, was a record temperature. The last 5 of the warmest years on record have happened since 2010. Now, here's my concern with this. I thought this was just a one-off article that wasn't going to get much attention, but then I'm noticing all of these other stories pop up on major news networks, from The Guardian to BBC to ABC, USA Today, pretty much all of the big 5 umbrella, Reuters, all of these places are pushing this story now that over the next 5 years it's going to be abnormally warm. The implication of that is that don't worry, after that it's going to be okay. So if you knew we were entering a situation which was potentially irreversible, you'd of course want to set up a story like this so people would think that this is some sort of cyclical cycle. They're using some kind of new mathematical method where they base it on simulations that have been done. Increased computational power apparently has allowed them to now be able to predict that there's a significant likelihood that the next 5 years are going to be abnormally hot, probably record-breaking. But they make sure they mention that by 2022, the situation is going to improve. Now, we've already seen the droughts in Europe. No doubt that's going to increase the global food price marginally, because there still is a lot of major agricultural producing countries out there that are going to fill the void. If anything, it's just going to make the market a little less competitive. But if something like that were to next year not only happen in Europe, but say happen in the breadbasket of the United States, the Midwest, then you're absolutely going to see the cost of food rise. So my concern in a nutshell is what they're trying to do is minimize panic in the future by going back to this story now, this supposed mathematical model that says, oh yes, we know the Earth is warming, because they're not going to deny that, but they're going to say it's actually more of a cyclical trend now based on these models and El Nino and blah blah blah. They're going to bring in a bunch of other things, very convoluted. I really hope that Guy McPherson will break this all down for people, because in spite of the fact that I don't agree with everything he says, obviously he definitely knows immense amounts more about this area of research than I do. In one of these articles, they conclude by saying if the warming trend caused by greenhouse gas emissions continues, years like 2018 will be the norm in the 2040s and will be classed as the cold by the end of the century. So they always seem to go to the end of the century, and they've been doing this for a long time. They always seem to be pushing it back so people almost don't even think about it. So to me, this seems like a preventative PR stunt. Like, this is the first kind of report like this that we're going to see, which is going to try to chalk up what we see in the next few years as cyclical. So the general idea that cyclical natural phenomena are going to affect the planet's climate or amplify the effects of man-made global warming over the next few years may well be the cover story for what's actually going on, is that we are going to rapidly go into this, abrupt, irreversible climate change, as some of the more, dare I say, fringe or radical climate scientists have proposed. Now, there is a major misconception out there that the sum total of environmentalism, including global warming, is all just a conspiracy to sell something. But the money just isn't there to prove that. I mean, the immense amount of wealth in non-renewable energy. You don't think that they're going to unleash an army of trolls and shills and charlatans onto the internet who work for peanuts to act as if nothing is wrong and downplay this whole thing? Well, sure, the CNN and the NBC and all the media agencies who cater to the market of liberal ethics and all the rest. I mean, that's just their market, okay? They don't genuinely have to harbor those thoughts. It's not like the CEO of NBC really cares about the environment per se. It's just a way that they can market their programming, get support, and sell commercials. It's all about money. This is the realization I've had. There is absolutely no money in telling people that the collapse is going to happen. How can you make money with that? I mean, you could make money selling people bunkers and stuff, but it would be a one-hit wonder. It's not a sustainable business model. You might be thinking, Nate, why would they want to make money if they knew the crap was going to hit the fan and this is an irreversible plight of our species? Well, money means more power and more capability to better prepare yourself. So in spite of the fact that this may be the end game for a lot of people, the elites may still think they could ride this out. And if people genuinely thought there was no hope, there would obviously be riots in the streets. There would not be an economy to profit off of or gain more power from. We have to at some point entertain the possibility, just the possibility, that there's a direct correlation with the possibility of global disaster and the hyper-concentration of wealth at the top. Meanwhile, everybody else faces austerity. Think about that for a second. If you're moving into an era where crap is probably more likely to hit the fan, doesn't it start to look like there's people out there who are trying to get as much as they can while they can, because they know that the crap is going to hit the fan. So they don't care at this point. They know that all of the political and economic hoops that we would have to jump through to actually make something work are unachievable with the human element in its way. Maybe if the world was run by artificial intelligence and there wasn't this variance of passionate opinions dividing everybody, we would actually work together towards something which was constructive. But the odds of that happening are a jumbo jet being assembled by a tornado. So let's just say, worst case scenario, somebody somewhere, the best scientists in the world that nobody knows about, are in some, government bunker somewhere doing all sorts of crazy research, and they've concluded that beyond all reasonable doubt, we are going to enter an era of irreversible climate change. We're not going to be able to grow crops, just like, as predicted in that movie Interstellar. where, you know, they can't grow food anymore and they're going to try to move humanity to a different planet. Or what was the other one? Well, there was The Road, obviously. There was the one with Matt Damon where all the elites flee the planet because it's just this drought-stricken cesspool. There's the movie Dread, who depicts human beings living in these lawless dystopian cities which are run by AI and robotics, while the whole rural landscape is desertified. So what I'm saying, and this is going to be probably the most conspiratorial thing I say, is that in priming us to be exposed to these ideas, and this is a well-known psychological phenomenon, it's called the mere exposure effect. It's that if you are familiar with something, you're more comfortable with it, or you actually come to like it more. Now, none of us are going to like disaster, but if we've seen it on television, if we've talked about it, it's less powerful when it hits us. It's less impactful when it hits us, and we may panic less because it's all about keeping people from losing it before they lose everything. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Remember, these are just thoughts, just my little analysis, critical thinking, honest skepticism. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Yes, I'm familiar with the channel Adapt 2030 and the Grand Solar Minimum. If I had $1 for every frickin' time somebody quoted that one channel as the deciding factor for all of their opinions on this topic, I'd be a rich man by now. But unfortunately, YouTube doesn't work that way. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.